I want to challenge you to see in each person the human face of God. Let me see. Okay, I have to learn how to use this remote control. Every Sunday morning in the last quarter, Mark taught us a song with stories. Now let's learn a song. That is not a hymn. However, it has biblical meaning. And I hope parents, grandparents, please teach your children and your grandchildren. Let's sing twice. The first time, I'm going to sing slowly. The second time, let's all sing together. The sun is only a star. Around the star we spin. But there are many other stars. Where do we fit in? I am only a grain of sand, tossed by the water and wind. But there are many grains of sand. Where do we fit in? There are many stars, but there is one star that is special, that is the sun. There are many people, but there is one person that is very special in the eyes of Jesus, in the eyes of God. That person is you, that person is I. I have to say I, otherwise my high school grammar teacher will say, come back and retake your English. Okay. Now let's sing together with still slow tempo. Next week, we are going to sing again. The sun is only a star. Around the star we spin. But there are many other stars. Where do we fit in? I am only a grain of sand, tossed by the water and wind. But there are many grains of sand. Where do we fit in? You are special and I am special. Okay. The universe and the nature was created by God for us to observe and for us to appreciate. And the Bible tells us that the character of God is revealed when we take time to observe and appreciate nature, appreciate what is around us. Of course, when you are grounded at home by snow, that may not be a reason to be grateful. But in the long run, maybe there is a reason we don't quite understand. So we have learned from Latin words. God is omniscient, means God knows everything. God is omnipotent, means God is powerful. He can do everything. And God is omnipresent. He is everywhere. He is holy. He is merciful to all of us. Let's all read together. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. We have eyes, and I'm very grateful. What do you want to see? Do you want to see beautiful flowers? Do you like to see shimmering skies? If you like to look into the sky and watch the stars and constellations, every season there are beautiful stars and constellations we can identify. And for parents, grandparents, probably you want to see your babies as often as possible. What do we see? We see with our eyes, and we may see with tools. And sometimes we have to see with our hearts. This is taken from a rose garden. We don't get to see this beautiful rose garden very often. The beautiful flowers, colorful, and if you go close, if you get close, you will see that some roses, they have one beautiful blossom on a stem, and some may have several. They are equally beautiful. One Secretary's Day, I walked into our department office and I said, ladies, do you want one rose or do you want a bouquet without roses? 3 of them all shout, one rose. This was presented in April and summer was coming. So I used the summer triangle as the example. If we look into the summer sky, there are 3 stars form a triangle. They are Vega. Vega is the second brightest star in the sky we can see with our naked eyes. Next one is Altair, or someone say Altair, and the other one is Deneb. They form a almost right triangle. They are the brightest stars of 3 constellations. So Altair belongs to Aquila. That means an eagle. Vega belongs to Lyra. That means a harp. And Deneb belongs to Cygnus. What does Cygnus mean? It means swan. Here comes the beautiful swan. I hope I have demonstrated a dry and dull physicist can be poetic, artistic, and romantic. This is speaking to my lovely wife. Now, we are still in some kind of winter. The most famous star in the winter is Sirius. And I hope I can use a pointer, but I don't know how. Maybe I can use this one. Let me try. Can I try pointer? Yes. Yes. But people in the back, can you see the green dot? Okay, so here is the brightest star in the sky in the evening, all year long, that we can see with our naked eyes. This is the brightest star of the Canis Major. It's called the Big Dog. Here, this is the famous hunter with a belt. You may say, this doesn't look like a hunter, and this doesn't look like a dog. Let's take a look. Does this look like a dog to you? Does this look like a hunter to you? Not yet. So here is the famous hunter, the Orion. We like to see beautiful flowers, and for physicists and for most of us, in a good, cool evening, if the sky is clear, we like to enjoy stargazing. Now here comes something, maybe I should not say something. Here comes a sight that is even more beautiful than the most beautiful flowers and night sky. Okay, in Romans, Paul taught us God demonstrated his power and divine nature, so no one has any excuse. Let's read together. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible quality, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Here are the tools that we use. Let me see. Please. Okay. So here we are. This is a human eye. We can see the size of what our natural scale or near us. For something smaller, as small as a cell, we need a microscope. For something as small as DNA or even an atom, I think we can see DNA with an optical microscope. But for a single atom, we need another tool called electron microscope. For something inside an atom, then we need an accelerator. So to go to the right, we need tools to see something smaller and smaller and smaller. To go to the left, we need a different kind of tool to see something that is further and further away from us. This is Saturn with a beautiful ring. We can see it as a bright dot, but to see the structure, we will need telescope. To see faraway galaxies, we need fancier telescope. And the most famous optical telescope is probably Hubble telescope. Okay. As a physicist, we study two opposite directions, something smaller and smaller and smaller, smaller than atoms, smaller than nucleus, smaller than proton and neutron. And we like to study something further and further away and bigger and bigger. And the biggest is the universe itself. Okay. This is the Hubble telescope we just mentioned. Now, last time when I gave this presentation, I asked, what is every bright spot in this picture? And only one person got it right. And that was Jennifer McKnight. Now let me ask you one more time. What does every bright spot in this picture present? It's not a star. It's a galaxy. In every bright spot, there are 100 billion stars. This was taken with Hubble's deep field or the Hubble telescope. Now let's read Psalm 147, verse 4. He determines the number of the stars. He gives to all of them their names. I should have fixed the bullets better, so my apologies. There should be no bullets, or at least only 2. Okay, the second passage talking about God cares about stars. Let's read Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26. Lift up your eyes on high and see. Who created these? He who brings out their host by number, calling them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and because he is strong in power, not one is missing. This is pretty amazing. We see stars, we see constellations, and there are beautiful sights in heaven called nebula. They are dusts, but with light, they become very beautiful. Does this look like an eye to you? This was taken with Hubble, and people call this eyes in the sky. This is actually very huge. Okay, so now come to my field, high energy physics. You see this Nazi professor chasing a small particle. At first, he tries to understand an atom. Out of this atom, he tries to understand something smaller. They are called nucleus. Now, what are elementary particles? What are fundamental interactions? What holds the universe together? Is the atom fundamental? Atom means something indivisible. So 400 years before Jesus came to earth, there was a Greek philosopher. His name was Democritus, and he had this famous statement: by convention, there is color. By convention, sweetness. By convention, bitterness. But in reality, there are atoms and space. He meant in this universe, there are objects indivisible, and there are space without anything. So this philosopher was quite creative. Now, this is just to show you, inside the atom, there is a nucleus. Inside the nucleus, there are protons and neutrons. Inside protons and neutrons, there are something called quarks. So junior high or high school students, learn this word. You can show off among your classmates. Q-U-A-R-K, it's pronounced quark. That is the real elementary particle. It's smaller than a nucleus, smaller than an atom. And there are 4 fundamental interactions. We know gravity every day. We know electromagnetism every day. Electricity was discovered by a famous American. His picture is on a US currency bill. Who is this? Benjamin Franklin. And magnetism was discovered by some shepherds in the Middle East. One day, a shepherd went to take a rest, sat on a stone. He put his staff next to him. When he was ready to go home, it took him a long time and a lot of efforts to get the staff off the stone, because his staff was wrapped with iron, and that stone was a huge magnet. Then there are 2 interactions inside a nucleus. Okay. There are quarks in you, there are quarks in me. They are called up-down, and there are electrons in you. There are electrons in this podium. Other quarks and other particles, they don't appear in our everyday life. They show up in cosmic rays. And this branch, they show up only in high energy physics labs. Okay. When you watch the sun, Nowadays, solar energy is quite fashionable. In the sun, actually, there are interactions that will create an electron and something called a neutrino, then release a lot of energy. And this energy will come to us in the form of light. So in physics, we often say, without electromagnetism, there would be no atoms. Without weak interaction, the sun would not shine. In Oklahoma, in the summer, sometimes we may say, God, could you allow the sun not to send so much energy to us? When we just came to Norman, our neighbor one day watched me mow the lawn, and she said, don't worry, in July, all your grass will hibernate. So maybe I should have used PDF. Okay, I was trying to use this slide to show you. In high energy physics, we have two foundations. One is called special relativity, and one is called quantum mechanics. And this slide demonstrates the effect of special relativity. If something is moving at the speed of light, then this object will shrink. And if something is moving close to the speed of light, the clock on this spaceship will slow down. So let's take one example. We have a pair of twins. Mary is an astronaut and Frank is a stockbroker. When they were 30 years old, Mary had a mission trip, and that lasted her 12 years on the spaceship. But her brother Frank on the Earth already grew older, and 20 years had passed. Because Mary was in a spaceship traveling very fast, so she got paid 20 years of salary. Actually, only 12 years passed on this spaceship. And during those 20 years, her brother invested for her. So when she came home, she was a very wealthy person. So this is some effect of special relativity. Now, along with special relativity, there is a concept called causality. Physicists like to know if the probability of some reaction is meaningful. If the probability is less than 0, we say that's nonsense. But if the probability is greater than 1, I think this physicist should cry, because that is equally nonsense. Probability can be only between 0 and 1. When you have considered all possibilities, then they all add up to 1. So if we say, Janet, you are a 200% person, don't consider that compliment. That just means whoever is praising you with that phrase is either regarding you extremely highly, or this person doesn't have common sense. He should have said, you are perfect, 100% perfect. Okay. Now let's read John chapter 9, verses 1 to 3. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. The disciples were asking a very meaningful and very important question. What was the cause? Causality comes from cause. If there is a cause, there is a consequence. If there is consequence, there must be causes. Physicists need to take care of causality in their reasoning. That means some event should not happen, should not disappear before it happened. And a person should not die before he was born. This may seem to be common sense, but for a physicist, you have to demonstrate it works. And this is demonstrated here. Jesus gave them the reason that is beyond their imagination. The Jews or the Hebrews thought if a person has illness, it may be the cause of sin, either the sin by this person or sin by his parents. But Jesus said, in this case, it's very different because he is blind, so the Son of Man can demonstrate the power of God. So this is tremendous reasoning of causality as a physicist. So Jesus corrected them, corrected his disciples. Now, let's read Isaiah chapter 42, verses 6 and 7. I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and will make you to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles, to open eyes that are blind, to free captives from prison, and to release from the dungeon those who sit in darkness. The Hebrews know that if Messiah comes, he would have miraculous power, including open the eyes of a blind man. But somehow, only this blind man can recognize that. The Pharisees would say, he did this on Sabbath. He must be a sinner. His parents tried to stay away, tried to not invite troubles. So we are going to see different reactions. Okay. So Jesus sent this man to a pool called Siloam. In Hebrew, it means water of this pool came from a channel. Apostle John emphasizes the word Siloam, means this person was sent to the pool. Jesus is the channel and demonstrated the power of God. Now, this is the investigation in several steps by the Pharisees. The neighbors were divided. Pharisees were divided. Was this a miraculous sign from God, or was this an act of a sinner? And they asked neighbors, they asked his parents, they asked him. And let's see the reactions. Okay, I'm going to read this because these are parents, not too impressive. But how he now sees, we do not know, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He will speak for himself. If you were his parents, your son was born blind. Now he can see. Would you jump up and down and maybe borrow a microphone and announce to the whole world, look, my son who was born blind, now he can see. This is great joy to my family. And whoever opened his eyes must be a prophet or someone important. However, his parents said, ask him. That's none of our business. I think this is a couple of sad parents. Now, they asked many people. Eventually, Pharisees asked this man. After studying this chapter, I would like to say this man born blind can be a great scientist. He adjusted his attitude, adjusted his understanding step by step by step as time goes along. So let's read chapter 9, verse 25. He replied, let's all read together. Whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. He was very courageous, more courageous than his parents. And later he gave this answer. Let's read verses 31 through 33. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. He is courageous and he is brilliant. Now let's read verses 35 through 38. Now Jesus learned that this man was cast out. He came to find him and adopted him. Let's read 35. Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, and when he found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? Who is he, sir? The man asked. Tell me so that I may believe in him. Jesus said, you have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you. Then the man said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. This man is intelligent and courageous. He was not afraid of the pressure from peers, from the authorities. He spoke the truth. He had the attitude of a scientist. Jesus gave him physical sight. Jesus also gave him spiritual sight. And this spiritual sight allowed him to change, allowed him to grow. Now, we have 5 different groups of people. The disciples, the neighbors, Pharisees, parents, and finally, Jesus. 4 groups of people have different attitude, have different eyesight, have different spiritual eyesight. Let's read Titus chapter 1, verse 15. To the pure, all things are pure, but to those who are corrupted and do not believe, nothing is pure. In fact, both their minds and consciences are corrupted. Now, this man first called Jesus a man. A man named Jesus sent me to the pool of Siloam to wash, and then I could see. Later, when he realized the wondrous power, he called Jesus a prophet. And then, when Jesus told him that he is the Son of Man, did this miraculous sign, he called Jesus the Lord. Finally, he recognized Jesus as the Son of Man and worshiped him as he worshiped God. This is quite striking to me. So the growth of this man allows us to see a new person. Let's read Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. I don't remember if we had a guest speaker here. One time, someone was citing a statistical survey, and they found that 95% of the professors in a university consider they are better than their colleagues or than others in the same field. Of course, sometimes we need confidence, but arrogance is not a correct attitude. Okay. So please read chapter 9 by yourself. I think I have only 5 minutes left. So please read chapter 9 of John. I hope you get a new understanding how to see this man and how to see the lessons we learn. Okay. Now let's read the message from Jesus. Let's read together, and please read loudly. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Jesus said, for judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind. Some Pharisees who were with him heard him say this and asked, what? Are we blind too? Jesus said, if you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. Okay. Let me emphasize Proverbs chapter 27:19. Let's read together. As in water, face reflects face, so heart of man reflects the man. I want to encourage every one of us to see every person as a human being created in the image of God. So let's try and see as Jesus sees. Thank you for your attention, and may God bless you.